Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we are going to be taking a look at a card which is coming out in Lost Thunder, which just come out in Lost Thunder, which is phenomenal. And an old deck that might be getting a little bit of new life. The card we're talking about here is Sightseer, and I've described this as an underrated card. Now let me be clear what I mean about that. I don't mean people are saying it's a bad card, I mean Sightseer is an over-the-top brokenly good card, and people are saying, yeah, Sightseer is pretty good, it'll see some play. I looked at a bunch of top 10s that people have done about Lost Thunder, and the majority of top 10 lists I looked at didn't feature Sightseer in the top 10. Sightseer is phenomenal as a card. What you do is you draw until you got 5 cards in your hand, and before you do that, you may discard as many cards from your hand as you like. So it really is just a way of drawing cards but also discarding. Now people have been talking about using this with decks like Naganadel, which I agree entirely, and decks like Malamar that need energy in the discard pile, and all of this is incredibly sensible, and all of this I agree with entirely. But the deck we need to be talking about here is Rotom with Gourgeist. Now we've talked about a Rotom deck in the not too distant past. We talked about it. It was a deck that did well in Japan. I did a video about it. I'll pop a link to that one in the description. But the difference we see nowadays is we've got Gourgeist and we've got Sightseer. Now the Rotoms, for anyone that's forgotten, have this amazing ability whereby if you've got 9 tools in the discard pile, then you can attack for free, which is redonk. To be perfectly honest with you, it's really good. But you need to get the tools in the discard, and obviously this is something you can use Sightseer for. Use Sightseer to essentially bin all of your tools, and then come along and do a whole bunch of damage because of that. And it's decent. We'll talk about the Rotom and their attackers in a minute. But let's not sleep on Gourgeist. Gourgeist for a double colorless energy does 10 damage, and you may discard any number of Pokemon tool cards from your Pokemon. This attack does 40 more damage for each card you discarded in this way. Gourgeist is great. Now here's the problem. Gourgeist needs double colorless energy. So you end up in this situation where Gourgeist is needing the energy, and you don't want to play the energy. Ideally with Rotom, you don't really want to play any energy whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 2 very good reasons why you play energy here. And the biggest one of them is Alolan Muck. You see, all of your Rotom attack for free based on the attack that they have. But they're basic Pokemon. So if you're relying on this attack from basic Pokemon that's only free because of their ability, and an Alolan Muck comes into play, then all of a sudden you have no free attack. The second an Alolan Muck hits the field, you're basically out. Now one tool that you're really going to want to use here is Spell Tag. Spell Tag is another great new card that came out in Lost Thunder. You attach it to a Psychic Pokemon, that Psychic Pokemon gets KO'd, you put 4 damage counters around the field. But honestly, trying to use something like that to KO an Alolan Muck is going to be extremely difficult to do. You need something that can actually KO an Alolan Muck. And Alolan Muck's not huge, right? It's got 120 HP. Gourgeist discarding 3 tools from your hand, you get the KO. I think that's the #1 reason to play Gourgeist. The other reason to play Gourgeist is essentially to use it as an attacker. Because if you're against something like Buzzwole, for instance, you would discard 2 tools from your hand, and all of a sudden Buzzwole goes down, and that's kind of hilarious. Now, if you're against a GX, you will need either a Choice Band or you will need a 3rd tool. But if you can just get away with taking out the non-GX, it's just 2 tools and you're good to go. That's pretty nice. So the reason you play it is very simple. You can get rid of tools, it gives you an answer against the Alolan Muck, and it gives you a good weakness to hit. Now, in terms of which Rotom you want, we have the main Rotom, the best attacking Rotom, and it comes in either Psychic or Lightning colours. And you do 120 for 0 energy, and you can't attack next turn, but that's fine. If it's not KO'd, you play a Skateboard. Remember, this is the kind of deck where you really want to be playing a lot of tools. So playing a Skateboard here seems like a very natural thing to do. That seems fine to me. Okay, cool. Sounds good. As to which one you play, we've got a couple of different options. Rotom is really good for hitting weakness against stuff like Buzzwole. And it's really good because it allows you to use Spell Tag, and it can be searched out with Mysterious Treasure, which of course can also search out your Gourgeist. But the Lightning one, at the moment, is only really hitting weakness on Ho-Oh, which is still a relevant Pokemon, which is still seeing play. But you never know when a Lightning weak Pokemon is going to come to the forefront. The other thing is you've got different weaknesses here. So if you're against something like a Buzzwole, they are not going to struggle to KO your Lightning Rotom. They're going to be hitting you for a lot of damage, and then you're trading 1 for 1. Whereas your Psychic Rotom is going to be very difficult for Buzzwole to KO. They can get the KO if you've got 4 prizes remaining, or if they use Swing Around with a Diancie Prism Star hitting a head, or hitting 2 heads without a Diancie Prism Star. And they're not always going to do it. So Lightning Rotom is going to have a very bad time against Buzzwole, whereas the Psychic Rotom is going to have a very, very good time against it. Let's be clear, Psychic Rotom at the moment has a better weakness, hits a better weakness, and has Mysterious Treasure and Spell Tag. Just keep the Lightning one in mind. The other Rotom you really need to be considering is Frost Rotom. Frost Rotom for 0 energy, 10 damage, plus 20 times the amount of energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. And this is beautiful. If you're against a deck that wants to attach a load of energy, and Naganadel decks will, you are going to get easy KOs here with this. Plus, you're hitting water weakness. This is nice. The other one we like here is Fan Rotom. Now, Fan Rotom is good. It's got 0 retreat, and it does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon for free energy. 0 if you've got 9 tools in the discard. And this is another time that Gourgeist comes in nicely here. Because if you're playing Gourgeist, you can just use Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko has 40 more HP, which is sweet, and it's still got free retreat, except you can now use this attack for a double colourless energy. You see, one of the issues with just going Rotom Sightseer is that you end up in an awkward position where until you've got 9 tools in the discard, you don't do anything. Gourgeist can be attacking early, Tapu Koko can be attacking even earlier. The early game pressure might not be there without these cards. Yes, you've got to play the double colourless energy, yes, you've got to play the Gourgeist, but this could work. And you don't need to play that many Rotom, because you won't need them until after the first few turns, and you can use Rescue Stretcher to recover them. For all of those reasons, it's good. Now, in terms of other Rotom, we got Heat Rotom. I don't like Heat Rotom. Heat Rotom does 80 damage flat. It is a fire type, so it's very simple. If you're in a fire metagame, play Heat Rotom. If you're going to be coming against stuff like Duskmane Necrozma, play it. Or Golisopod, play it. Outside of that, it's not a good attack. You're playing this purely for weakness. And then Wash Rotom is just garbage. 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. If it did 60 and could KO something like a Zorua on the bench, I'd go fine, but it can't, so I don't. It is bad. Don't play it. Just don't play it. Now, in terms of tools, obviously Choice Band is redonk, because Choice Band allows you to do extra damage. Obviously, a Skateboard is good to help you retreat, and we've mentioned Spell Tag for your psychic attackers. They really are the ones on which I think you should be focusing here. The other one to bear in mind here is Choice Helmet. Choice Helmet reduces damage done by EXs and GXs by 30. Again, it's a metagame call. It's not vital, but against GX heavy decks, it's really gosh darned good. And do remember that Adventure Bag has just been released, which lets you search your deck for 2 Pokemon tool cards. I mean, especially with Gourgeist, it's dumb good here. You play this, search for them, discard. I made a video where I showed you a Japanese list that was just Rotom Sightseer, and that's fine, it's a good deck. But it loses hard to Alolan Muck, and you don't have any early game pressure. Adding in some double colourless energy and Gourgeist, and maybe even Tapu Koko, and I suppose I should also mention Latias here. Latias is better, but Latios is the better card at the moment. Boo, etc. In this situation, can give you that early game pressure that you're wanting. So, I want to know what you think about this, ladies and gentlemen, so tell me in the comment section, is it viable, or is it destined to just be a league deck forevermore? Go nuts, but please do remember the rule, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @thewasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you check it out, youtube.com/WassiePlays, for some more Wassie action. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.